Hello everyone, Frexon here, and this time we will be following the 4th episode of Let's Arena. Given the chances today, we can see Warlock, Priest and Shaman, as since in episode 1 I did Priest, since in the last episode I did Warlock, it would seem rather appropriate for me to pick Shaman, so there we go, and let's kick it off. Alright, with the first pick, target dummy is a 0-2 for 0 mana, don't get fooled by the taunt, and because it's a mech, it's just bad. Light Warden is equally bad card, with 1 mana for 1-2 and special effect. It can be quote-unquote viable in Priest. Still, comboing stuff in Arena is rather rare and always complicated, therefore the Mana-Tide Totem is a solid card, 3 mana, potentially keep drawing until the game ends, so definitely this Mana-Tide Totem is what we're picking. Following it up, we have Ancient Mage, which is a very boring 2-5 for 4 mana, just stats-wise it's just bad. Spell damage is hard to work since not always you get spells. Then Emperor Cobra and Lava Burst. Emperor Cobra is a 2-3, whatever it touches it kills, which is an interesting mechanic. Lava Burst, 3 mana for 5 damage and you overload for 2. I think I will be taking Lava Burst just because it's a spell. It's a bit different, it's a bit more versatile, so Lava Burst it is. Following it up, Haunted Creeper, great 2-drop with a great Death Rattle, a 1-2, 2 mana for 1-2. When it dies, summons another 2 spiders, it's excellent. Bloodlust is an interesting finisher, although you'd have to kind of build a deck around it, and I think in Arena it's kind of risky. Draconid Crusher, 6 mana for 6-6, can become a 9-9, I think it's situational. And I will be although it's rather tempting for the late game, I think I will gradually, I might pick Haunted Creeper, although I don't know, if I'm afraid of not picking enough late game up, because usually you're not lacking early game and most of the time you're lacking late game, so just for once I'll take the Crusher, and I think it's very debatable though. I mean, it just really depends on the RNG here, and I'm just afraid of being short. I know it's only my 3rd pick, but like if it comes down as a 9-9, I do realize it makes a pretty huge difference, while the 1-2 for 2 is just any other 2-drop. So let's try this out, for science after all. Flying Machine, 1-4 with Wind Fury, garbage card, never pick. Fang Creeper, 5 mana for 3-6 is decent, but Boulder Fist Ogre just tops it up as your, let's say, very standard vanilla 6 mana 6-7, which is just fantastic because of that 7 health. So Boulder Fist Ogre it is. Interesting set of picks. Crackle is 3-6 damage with 1 overload, which is I think really good. Rockbiter weapon is equally good. And Jungle Panther is okay, I suppose. I mean, it's not fantastic, but it might trade well since it has 4 attack and you can stealth it and so on. However, for the sake of versatility, I think I'm gonna take I'll take Rockbiter weapon. Maybe Crackle is better, but Rockbiter is slightly more versatile, or maybe not. Some tough picks here. No, never mind. I'll take Crackle. Moving on, Dust Devil is a very tempting card, 3-1 for 1 mana, overload 2, so basically you don't play your 2nd turn. However, 3-1 with Wind Fury, and if you're playing against a class that does not have hero power, you might be very tempted to pick this card. However, it's not as good as it looks. Rockbiter Weapon is okay, and Stormforged Axe is also pretty good, and I think I will, although it overloads you for 1. But given the situation, I will be taking the Stormforged Axe, that 3 durability actually just pushes board control quite strongly, and you know, you can swing up to 3 times, while Rockbiter Weapon, okay, does not overload you, but only affects the board once. So I'm definitely gonna take the Stormforged Axe. Moving on, Hex is great. It's pretty much, well, I mean great, it's great removal. Wolf Rider is 3-1, meh, in Arena just doesn't do as much as you'd like. I mean, you're not playing an extremely aggro type of deck, so it's just gonna be like a very standard trade. Burly Rockjaw is a 4 mana 3-5, basically doesn't really do anything most of the times, but I think I'll probably take 1 Hex. I think that getting good 4 mana drops isn't gonna be hard. Nomarang Infantry, 3 mana 1/4, absolute garbage, never pick. Mechanical Yeti, 4 mana for 5, is like its cousin, the standard Yeti, always 4/5, but it gives spare parts, really good. And Harvest Golem is also very good. However, my 3 spot is slightly crowded right now, so I think I will begin picking the Yeti to smooth out the curve a little bit. Coming up next, Arcane Golem. Do not pick unless like the other cards against which it goes are just super bad, because that giving your opponent a mana crystal just sets you back immensely in arena, and you really do not want to give that type of advantage to your opponent. Master Swordsmith, 1/3. That 1/3 is just too weak. It risks dying to a 3/2 and letting the 3/2 survive. With the 2/3, it ends up not doing enough. Sure, it does like +1 to a random friendly minion, but it's a win more card. If you're struggling for board control, this is gonna be doing pretty much nothing for you. Mind Control deck, very interesting card. 3 mana 3/3. You steal a minion in case the opponent has 4+. And that's just fantastic. Of course, if you're behind, but and even if that situation does not arise, you get a standard 3/3, which is, in my opinion, far superior to these other 2 cards. Lightning Storm, AoE. Always look out for AoE. You want that in arena. That just shifts the balance of the game completely. Ravenhold Assassin, 7 mana for 7/5. I mean, it's okay. It's a finisher pretty much. It can't compete because of its 5 health in terms of much of board control. Matter Bomber, you can see it as a very random type of Lightning Storm, although that might also hit your minions. I think given the 3, Lightning Storm is by far the best chance. Let's see, Jungle Panther is a bit of a boring card and already really stockpiled with 3 drops. Bloodlust is an interesting finisher. And I think Fork Lightning is definitely the card to go here. It can really tip, let's say, the scales when you're fighting for board control. Shieldbreaker, 1 mana 0/4, garbage card. Elven Archer, 1 mana 1/1, do 1 damage, garbage card. Unless like your other choice, or like you have like 2 Shield Bearers and 1 Elven Archer, then you pick the Elven Archer. Okay, sure. However, Fire Elemental is just phenomenally good card, extreme value that deal 3 damage immediately as a battle cry is just great, and its body is 6/5 for 6, which is okay still after having done already that 3 damage. It often does 2 for 1, so really, really must pick here. Dust Devil, we commented before, just no. Explosive Sheep is very uninspiring, because if you can't trigger it when you want to, then your opponent might do it for you, which is extremely bad. Totemic Might is probably one of the worst cards there are in Hearthstone. I don't think there exists any kind of, let's say, totem deck. Maybe with the next expansion it's possible, but right now, no. So I'm gonna really bad picks between Dust Devil and Explosive Sheep. Taking Dust Devil is just... No, I'll take Dust Devil, and I'll explain why. If I take Dust Devil, the opponent I play Dust Devil on turn 1. On turn 2, the opponent hero powers and kills it, but he, like, by hero powering, he doesn't play any minions, so like we're kind of even. So it's sort of okay, but like it's just really bad. I was just too afraid that with that random sheep up there, the opponent would have triggered it. Anyway, Hex, we already have one. It's a pretty good card. Windfury RP, 4/5 for 6 is just not cutting it. 4 mana 3/6 with a bonus of attack, absolutely yes. This has the possibility of becoming a 7/6. It has Overload 1, but damn it, 7/6 in arena for 4, you must be kidding me. Absolute pick. Then we have Kobold Geomancer, 2 mana for 2/2, +1 spell damage, very boring, very bleh. Unstable Ghoul equally can be, let's say, very... I mean, it's very standard, doesn't do anything special, but Flame Tongue Totem is definitely here the pick. Moving on, Matter Bomber. I don't think we need Matter Bomber here. Mind Control tech, we already have one. Having two would be ridiculous. And Power Mace is probably the way to go. Really, really, really missing the 2 drops. Burly Rockjaw Trog, as we saw before, a very standard 3-5. Murloc Tidehunter doesn't do enough. That 1 health really severely undermines it. And I think Spectral Knight is by far the best card between these 3. Moving on, finally we see some decent 2-drops. Ogre Magi for mana is 4-4, just boring. Not good. Not good enough, at least, not in Arena. Hanoiatron is okay if you're building a mech deck, but sadly enough, I'd love to have the synergy, of course, like, you know, with the Noyatron and the Power Mace. That'd be brilliant, but sadly that's just not gonna happen. This is Arena. Too much randomification, so I'm gonna take Amani Berserker. Finally filling up those like 2-drops. And here there's gonna be another tough choice because we're 18 cards in, and as you can see, like, I have a lot of removal for early game, you know, Crackle, Stormforge, and Fork Lightning. But there's very little in terms of 2-drops, and here I would have 2-drops, which are also, well, decent, let's say, they're not terrible. But Fire Elemental in terms of value is just fantastic. So I think here it's a note to everybody that's watching. I think if you're feeling more risk-prone, you should take Fire Elemental. If you're feeling a bit more risk-averse and you don't believe that in the next, let's say, 12 picks you're gonna get much of other 2-drops, then you should pick one of the 2-drops. However, I'm feeling quite risk-prone, so I will be taking Fire Elemental, but this is, let's say, one of those junction points in which decisions have to be made. Going on, Illuminator is just terrible, Shaman has no secrets, worth nothing. Murloc Tidecaller, even worse, we are not managing to build a Murloc deck, not even if we probably got a Neptulon, so Sunwalker it has to be, which is an okay card. Ancestral Healing, absolutely, it could be okay, but like, I mean, Undertaker 1 mana 1/2, I don't really have much in terms of Death Rattle, so it's basically a dead card. Wind Fury could be useful for I don't really know. There are 3 really just, honestly, there are 3 very bad cards. Maybe for the sake of board control, I'll take Ancestral Healing. Maybe you could take Wind Fury because I have a lot of hard hitters at the end, and that may actually lead to ending the game. And yeah, that's it. As always, if you're feeling a bit more, in this case it's different. If you're feeling like a more aggressive player, you should probably take Wind Fury. And instead, if you're a more defensive and you're looking more towards board control, you want to take Ancestral Healing. It really depends on your playstyle. In terms of effectiveness, probably it's very situational, but let's say that, of course, if you want to try to be more on the safe side, you'd probably take Ancestral Healing, but I'm gonna take Wind Fury. Just remember, this was another, let's say, of those juncture points. And moving on next, Grimscale Oracle. They're gonna try to make us build an Murloc deck. That's too bad. Draconid Sorcerer is a 3/5 for 4, very, very vanilla card, nothing special about that. And I will probably have to pick an Anoyatron because I'm getting a bit uneasy of having so little, let's say, early game. And let's say that the Dragonkin Sorcerer isn't exactly an irresistible pick. I mean, it's okay, but it's not like something for which I would renounce right now a 2-drop. Let's see, Bloodlust, as we said before, an excellent finisher, but with the late game we don't really need it. Hungry Dragon, I think, is excellent, although I don't have the hero power to kill the opponent's 1 spawn. But by far better than Kobold Geomancer, so Hungry Dragon it is. Ogre Brute, excellent card, I like it, 3 mana for 4. You don't really decide what it hits, that's the only downside. Nerubian Weblord, 2 mana for 1/4, doesn't do enough, probably. And it just, it may hinder you also, so I'm gonna take the Brute, because the Panther, it just dies too easily, and, I mean, once again, if you're feeling a bit more, it depends how you feel about playing decks and just this game altogether. If you feel more prudent, you should take the Jungle Panther. If you feel a little bit more in terms of taking chances, then you should take Ogre Brute. I'm taking Ogre Brute. I'm let's say staying true to the line of giving it a shot. So, Brewmaster, 4 mana 5/4, bounce something back into your hand is okay, although that 4 health is just is a really big drag. Amani Berserker, sure, I could take another one, probably. South Sea deckend is just not an option. I mean, I do have the weapons, but I don't really care too much to have that 1 mana, so I'll probably take another Avani Berserker, putting me up to, let's say, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 early game plays, which is probably okay, I suppose. Raid Leader is no, it's just not a good pick. Abusive Sergeant can be useful to, let's say, do some more interesting value removal. Although what I think will be the case is that I'll be a bit behind in the early game. So I may want to take some another Crackle, which could also lead to some very late game shenanigans. Then moving on, Ancestral Healing, no, we said absolutely it's just bad. Tide Hunter is not good. Bloodfender Raptor is a very plain 3-2, and we're gonna pick it. Oh, Young Dragonhawk, absolutely not. Volcanic Drake can be good in very specific, let's say, decks that are actually built around this kind of mechanic. However, in Arena, it's very risky, can just like be a very dead 6 mana 6/4, which are terrible stats. Just think that our Boulder Fist Ogre is a 6 mana 6/7, which would easily gobble up the Volcanic Drake. Fireguard Destroyer, absolutely brilliant card. We are absolutely picking this, no doubt. Once again, Flying Machine, garbage. Wind Fury, pretty much equally garbage. Earthen Ring Farseer is pretty much the only thing that remains, so I'm gonna pick it. Now, Echoing Ooze is basically 2 1/2s you play, and I really don't think we need any more of that. The Mini Mage is a funny card, but it's just bad, especially because, I do have some spells, but it just doesn't justify it. It's pretty useless. And the Earth Elemental, I think, is fantastic. I mean, it overloads you for 3, but 5 mana 7/8, it just gives a huge impact on the board. Of course, if your opponent has hard removal like Hex or Polymorph or whatever, you'll be pretty much very behind. But they have to have like either a complete removal or something that does 8 damage. But still, I think if not contrasted, Earth Elemental can really like steamroll the way to victory. So this is the deck. In terms of early game, we have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11. That's plenty of early game. Although in terms of actual creatures you can play immediately, I have 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5, which is not fantastic, because Wind Fury isn't really an early game card. And it's also a bit of a subpar card, as is also Dust Devil, as is probably a Noyatron. The rest, like the quality of the deck really increases drastically as we move, let's say, from bottom to top in terms of mana cost. Late game, there's plenty. We have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, and Fireguard Destroyer, which can really, let's say, have a very strong board presence. So will Hungry Dragon, as Boulder Fist Ogre, Spectral Knight, and Earth. I mean, I think the strong point of this deck is, let's say, from 3+. I think it's gonna be slightly challenging to be managing the overloads of Stormforge, of Crackle, and just in general correctly using that mechanic. But I think that if the deck manages to survive to around maybe turn, just to like have a pretty decent position on board for around turn 4-5, then I think has a pretty good shot at winning. Having said that, I think this covers it all. And if you liked it, please subscribe, like, comment, or really whatever you feel like doing. But especially if there's some pick you don't agree with, I'd be really happy to know your ideas, what you might have picked differently, if you think the deck should be played in another way, if you think that some, let's say, some of my ideas may be, let's say, too much inclined toward aggressivity rather than, let's say, board control. I'd really be happy to hear more of that. It's always good to hear different opinions, and I think that a little discussion always helps deck building. Well, having said that, Fraxon out, and see you guys next time.